and welcome to the Kuyumunge Institute, our Q&A Conversation for Exploration series. I'm Paul Robert, the Executive Director and President of the Institute, and along with my wife, Laura Lee, the Director of Research, Education, and Outreach, and of course, on behalf of our Board of Directors, our advisors, our volunteers, and supporting members, we do want to thank you for joining us today. The Kuyumunge Institute is an independent, nonprofit research organization committed to researching consciousness and the human experience, following the footsteps of our founder, anthropologist, Dr. Felicitas Goodman. And our focus is reflected in three main areas: experience, education, and exploration. We respect the path of academic balance, the creative pursuit of science, while advancing, conserving, and restoring a direct experience of that deeper human connection to all of life. And it's part of our mission to expand our own experiential research with the multidisciplinary understanding that's available to us today. So with that said, as an educational institution, we take a very open approach. And so we invite scholars in related fields to help broaden the scope of our own work and exploration. And that's why we call this Conversation for Exploration. And on these Sunday discussions, we've had a full spectrum of topics from neuroscience and anthropology, archaeology, archaeoastronomy, eco-spirituality, philosophy, mythology, shamanism, hero's journey, roots of theater. It goes on and on and on. You're welcome to join in. These presentations are on our website at kuyumungeinstitute.com. We have over 100 podcasts and also webcasts available for your enjoyment. Kuyumunge Institute, also an abbreviated domain name, Kuya, C-U-Y-A, institute.com. We'll take you right there. And we want to thank you as a nonprofit. First of all, we want to invite you to support us and be part of our community members. And we want to thank the community members who continue to support the mission of the Kuyumunge Institute. Today, we continue to delve into the expansion of human knowledge and consciousness. Specifically, we're examining the intricate interplay of thought, the collective consciousness that can be viewed as a dynamic layer of this planet, merging with the larger biosphere, contributing to understandings of humans and humanity's natural evolutionary process and the emergence of our global connections. And as our inner technologies advance, our collective consciousness and pool of shared knowledge, it gives us a chance to have that connection. And I'm truly captivated by this inspiring vision, which offers a path forward for us to redirect and understand some of the short-sightedness in the human story, that we can expand and see that connection that exists between us all. And at the same time, if you look into current news cycles, we see there's a huge development in the human engineering of technology, the AI, the artificial intelligence. But that's also raising a lot of ethical questions about machine intelligence and autonomy and its impact on society. So I think it's equally important, maybe actually I feel it's more important to embrace this active pursuit of this innate intelligence within all of us, our role in the universe and our place to protect the planet's future.
We are the inner technology.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting that just to find the correlation between our Earth, our planetary womb of life, and ourselves, it's interesting to note that we are the reflective, the self-referential thinkers among Earth species, and that we find our planet's various dynamic systems as self-reflective, as a series of feedback loops that keep it in balance, that's self-correcting. And that very quality to correct course, to maintain balance is something that we are striving to do ourselves. We need this self-reflection. So reflecting on who we are truly in the grandest sense, our largest cosmic self, was the story that Brian Swimme shared with us a few months ago when he joined us to talk about his book, Cosmogenesis, an Unveiling of the Expanding Universe, his own journey coming to this realization as a mathematician and cosmologist that our story, our human story, cannot be separated from the 14 billion year evolutionary journey of our cosmos. For it took that long and that long winding road to get us here today. So today, Brian returns with his colleague, Monica DeRaspe-Bolles, to focus on Earth's own evolutionary journey, specifically the role played by we humans and how the forces of evolution are shaping our collective journey, rather like a series of nested dolls, I think. I would like to read what Monica sent me, which I took the liberty to edit a bit, to describe today's focus, as it's such a juicy and evocative description of where we're at, what we're unfolding, this noosphere and its potential. You know, paradigm shift, and it asks us to wrap our minds around what is wanting to emerge in our worldview collectively. It's such an exciting process, for our understanding too is constantly evolving. Monica writes, humanity's new awareness, the grandeur of cosmogenesis and the quest of divinization. Humanity stands on the cusp of a transformative realization as we begin to apprehend the grandeur and the unity of the universe in new ways. Advancement in science have not only expanded our knowledge of the various objects in the universe, they have unveiled reality as a continuous creation. It's not a static cosmos, but a cosmogenesis, an astonishing, time-soaked, generative, and ever-evolving progression of becoming, which has led in our time to the building of the noosphere. With a cosmological form of, quote, knowing, it's been at work since its primal origin. The universe, quote, knew how to create stars, galaxies, planet, life, and humanity, us. It knew. This knowing is a deeper form of human knowing, a cosmological process Pierre Teilhard de Chardin named divinization. In his cosmology, a divine dimension is at work in the simplest atoms and in the most complex of us, human beings. Each individual participates uniquely in this process of noogenesis, the making of the noosphere, all of which dawns in us an innate sense of awe and wonder, which has been lying dormant, and which may activate the creative essential for building a sacred thinking earth. This is the story we're going to explore today, that Monica and Brian tell in their new video series, The Story of the Noosphere, all of which is free and online and a joy to watch. Brian Thomas Swimme is the director of the third story at Human Energy. He's a professor of evolutionary cosmology at the California Institute of Integral Studies in San Francisco. You may have seen his Emmy Award-winning Journey of the Universe film, written with Mary Evelyn Tucker. And Monica, our longtime friend, Monica DeRaspe-Bolles, is a doctoral student at the California Institute of Integral Studies in the Philosophy, Cosmology, and Consciousness program. Her area of research, she's at work on her dissertation, is the third story of the universe, a new structure of experience that can initiate an awakening to cosmogenesis. She co-wrote the Human Energies video series, The Story of the Noosphere, with Brian, and they've recently completed the companion book, also titled The Story of the Noosphere. Welcome back, you two.
Hi.
Hi.
All right.
Wow. Well, you know, you gave us the big story, and now we're in the next sphere, the noosphere, all about Earth and humanity unfolding.
We keep using the term noosphere right up front.
You
Let's go
gotta
ahead and
define
address noosphere
it?
so we can all get on the same page and move forward, because this is really a profound understanding of the interconnection of humanity, and we want to make sure everybody's following the story.
Yeah, start at the beginning. Noosphere.
Okay, well, I thought I just I'll jump right in. Okay.
Good.
Humanity, you talked, I heard you guys talk, we're all talking about in the beginning, we're at a critical cosmological point, a cosmologically critical point of emergence. There was one time for the emergence of galaxies and stars and planets, the geosphere, one time for the emergence of life on Earth, the biosphere, and now around our spherical planet, there's one time for the construction of the noosphere, a thinking Earth. We know this because we can at last see the 13.8 billion year history of the developing universe. Leap in being is a fundamental concept in the philosophy of history used by Eric Voegelin to describe transformative moments in the history of human consciousness and experience. He speaks of the leap in being as an actual change in being, quote, with consequences for the order of existence. The philosopher Karl Jaspers, he also spoke of humans experiencing a leap in development between 800 BCE and 200 CE across all major civilizations when, according to him, man as we know him today came into being. He called it the axial age. The leap of being of the axial age brought about the human capacity for theory, a way of looking at the world that differentiates the transcendent from the immanent, the universal from the particular, and the absolute from the contingent. And it has the human, uniquely ennobled with rationality and morality, in control of a mechanistic material earth of inert matter. With a theoretic mind, we are looking at the world as if we are separate from it. All of our major institutions are firmly entrenched in a metaphysics of being that emphasizes space and rationality over time and experience. We speculate that time developmental awareness may have the potential to spawn a new leap, one we are calling a leap in becoming, the significance of which might even parallel the leap in being of the theoretic mind. Our leap in becoming moves beyond the isolated and internal rational mind of the axial age to include a communion with the whole of the universe in relational developing time, a shift from a metaphysics of being to a hyperphysics of becoming. It's barely just begun, but it is happening. Otherwise, it wouldn't be happening to us. Beholding the whole. If you penetrate deeply enough into the human psyche, you discover the universe, and vice versa. The third story, the new cosmology, celebrates a self-organizing, self-nourishing, self-emergent, intelligent universe. Pressing in from the future is the whole. Fascinations guide us, but what is right and true also guides us. The intention for rightness led to the theoretic mind as well. But the theoretic mind looking at the world as if we're separate from it is no longer adequate. Something far more incredible is going on. We wrote the story of the Noosphere to share what an unbelievable process we're caught up in. To share with you our thinking about the story of the Noosphere, we'll describe the 8 aspects of the developing universe that we use to organize our focus. We'll describe them each in turn, but they are interrelated and dependent upon the development of the whole. There's a particular quality of each of these aspects, though, at every stage of the developing noosphere. Before I jump to the first aspect, Brian, what would you like to say?
Yeah, thanks, Monica. I think it's important for us to realize that this is a very recent development in our thinking. It's not exactly obvious how to think like a noosphere. Monica and I, have approached this task by looking at 8 facets or 8 aspects of the noosphere. But we're keenly aware of the fact that you can't analyze the noosphere and think you have understood it. By going into the aspects, we are hoping to provide a pathway into beholding the noosphere. So that's our aim. Now, we've worked on this for years. So, but we wanted to present the whole as much as we can. So there'll be a number of things that will seem strange, perhaps. I mean, I don't know for sure, but
not to this crowd. You're fine.
Yeah. We regard all of humanity, and in particular us right here gathered now, we regard this as a collaborative effort. So if things that Monica says or I say throughout, if something seems interesting, make a note of it, and then we can go back into it and during our response at the end. So we'll just steadily move through our best thinking on the 8 aspects of the noosphere. Monica.
Yeah.
Thank you. We begin with heredity, which we'll come back to at the end, I think, because we believe the ecstatic trance practiced by the Kuyamunge is a revelatory practice that speaks primarily to heredity, and would like to engage you on this in particular. The universe is one prolonged developing event. The cosmic story is not just a story out there in the stars that we're discovering. It's not a world of objects in space, but it's a world of deepening mutuality, a cosmogenesis, which has no background. The depth of the past is within all things, not around or above. Everything that's gone on before is involved now. We are descendants, not only of our human ancestors, but also of the primordial flaring forth in the curvature of space-time. Every commitment made by the universe in the past is remembered in all animal bodies. Our development is in communion with the past, and it rests on all the prior commitments that now hold steady. The universe constructed our bodies. All creativity is involved with the creativity of the universe. Now and here, we belong to the future. We are human experience situated in the context of an evolving Earth and universe. Because of our heredity, each entity is also unique. Each entity is poised to capture only a particular face of other entities. The sea is blue for us humans, but it isn't blue for the prokaryote. To exist is to experience the world in a way that otherwise would not ever be experienced. Each experience captures only one small part of the multivalent treasure that is the other. Together, we are an interpenetrating symphony. Heredity is memory and the chief element of identity. The fundamental ordering dynamic of the universe. The human acts like the universe, carving things into stone, writing things down, devoting so much effort to memory. Writing that perdures through time is a transgenetic DNA. It allows the accumulation of complex multi-step algorithms and techniques to hold steady and remain present. Brian?
I want to pick up on various things that Monica says, and to try to provide a few examples. I'm hoping to be helpful, and so that the line that really captures me from what Monica has just spoken is, heredity is memory. And the point I want to make to begin is that this is a form of memory that can be called a cosmic memory. But again, I'm speaking from really mainstream science. So what do I mean by that cosmic memory? To take one example, the hydrogen atom emerges something like 400,000 years after the birth of the universe. And the structure of the hydrogen atom is maintained by the universe. Now, in a certain sense, we can take that for granted. Okay, hydrogen, big deal, an atom. I mean, so what? But what has to be remembered is that the electron and the proton of the hydrogen atom, they are jumping all over the place. There's an unpredictable nature of them. They would be flash forth and leave this structure forever if they could, but the universe holds them together. Not all of them. Sometimes the structure is destroyed, but the very fact that the universe holds the hydrogen structure together is what I mean by cosmic memory. so that early event is remembered for billions of years, and so that hydrogen offers new potencies for development only because the universe remembers hydrogen. Let me just jump on one more example, and to speak of memory now in a more common sense of human memory. We have the ability to, as Monica was saying, have the ability to maintain these ideas through time. And the one idea that I want to highlight is from Pierre Teilhard de Chardin. It was exactly 100 years ago this year that he came up with the idea of noosphere. Mm-hmm. So for 100 years, the Earth, the universe, has remembered this theory by Teilhard. And it is a theory that enables us to see where we are in a new and profound way. So the universe remembers for various reasons. And this would be the power of heredity. And just to say one more time, what if the universe didn't remember hydrogen? What if hydrogen atoms lasted for exactly 52 seconds and then they dissolved? Mm-hmm. You see, that would eliminate all of the development in the universe. Our universe is not like that. So the miraculous nature of the universe begins at the beginning. And we're trying to unpack what we mean by that. And so this first aspect of heredity. Monica.
Very nice.
Yeah. Okay. The next aspect we used was communication. Mm-hmm. And heredity can be thought of as communication across time. Mm-hmm. But there's also communication across space. So all development rests on prior commitments, like with DNA, but development also involves a relationship with all other development that's also taking place in the now. That too is communication. Humans developed a new power, the ability to express their emotions, to express to others their experience. The radical difference in the human-human bond enabled the emergence of the noosphere. As consciousness deepened, communication systems between humans grew in speed and complexity of the transmitted information. Brian?
Yeah, let's focus in on that, Monica's phrase. Heredity is communication through time, which I really love. The first thing to notice is that these are two aspects that are brought together. So the aspects are interconnected. They're thoroughly woven together. What does it mean to say heredity is communication through time? I began by directing our imaginations to the moon. And we see the various craters of the moon. Those craters were created millions of years ago. And so that we now can look at the craters and know what has happened. There's a communication taking place from a distant event in the past to the present. This would be one form of communication. Another more complex form is when we go to life. And this, I just want to direct our attention now to one molecule in particular. It's called cytochrome C. And the reason I choose it is because extensive research has been done on this molecule. You know, once something gets going in a research field, then you build on it, build on it, build on it. So we now know that cytochrome C came into existence billions of years ago. And it has been remembered all the way through that time. And it is vital to the functioning of every animal body. It's involved in an electron in energy systems. And with us, with zebras, with whales, with mosquitoes. The point is, the Earth, life itself, doesn't pass down the actual cytochrome C molecule. Instead, it passes down the instructions for making it.
Yeah.
So for billions of years, these instructions have been protected and passed down, and we now benefit from that. But now, just a third example of communication, and that is the cosmic microwave background radiation. This is the light that came from the earliest time in the universe that we have information about, the cosmic microwave background radiation. This it took humanity 200,000 years to see it. So it's a very subtle light, and we first saw it and knew what we were looking at in 1964. So how do we interpret this? It says a lot about human ingenuity and the development of the human mind, but also from a point of view of the noosphere, this is the universe desiring to communicate. This is different language, I know, but what we're saying is that the origin of the universe wanted to make contact and has been spreading its light out throughout the universe for billions of years. And now we have awakened to it. And maybe in other planets, it's happened as well. But I simply want to celebrate the nature of the universe as being rooted in communication at every level.
Mhm.
Monica.
I'll go with that. Okay, so the next one that we focus on is reflective consciousness.
Okay.
So reflection is, and you already spoke a little bit to this, Laura, but reflection is what allowed Homo sapiens to break free of the ordinary fanning out dynamic of evolution. Instead of fanning out into new species, Homo sapiens began to recognize their commonality. They absorbed one another and they expanded. What brought about humanity's inward reflection? How did that happen? Some prominent evolutionary biologists, such as Stephen Jay Gould, he speculates that the cause was humans' neotenic nature. Neoteny is the reason for the depth of reflective consciousness that opened in the human. Neotenic genetic mutations that occurred 5 to 7 million years ago when Homo erectus diverged from primates, they've been identified. Neoteny refers to the slow and delayed development of an individual and the retention of ancestral juvenile features by the adults in a lineage. So a neotenic species is extending its time in a juvenile stage. The reason this may be so important is that play, which occurs mainly in juveniles, is central to the development of human consciousness. Robert Bellah pointed out that play is so fundamental precisely because it provides an extinction of time in time, or what Burckhardt calls a relaxed field of alternate reality. Immersed in an alternative reality of play, new relations are possible, new dimensions of the universe are awakened, and creativity and conscious development become possible. Neoteny exists throughout the universe, and it might be seen to be an evolutionary activity occurring at all levels, a return to earlier conditions that can enable the exploration of developmental potencies that once existed, but for whatever reason were transient. For instance, in the core of a star, nuclear fusion processes occur that mirror, in a way, the conditions of the universe's infancy. The domestication of the wolf frees the dog of some adult developments that committed the wolf to regimented behavior. By bringing the wolf to a prior state, staying at a prior state, new potentialities emerge which led to the dog. Neoteny also exists at the level of the noosphere. With neoteny, there can be a drawing back from the institutions, from nationalities, from all the identities that have hardened us into restricted relations. We can be free to form new alliances and connections as cosmological beings. By bringing forth new structures of human experience through symbolic imagination, we participate in constructing the nervous system of the planet itself. We can now recognize that what is right is that which enhances the journey into the noosphere. The good is liberation from secondary identities. And finally, seeing that all entities have the dignity of a 13.8 billion year creation. We're primarily cosmological beings, only secondarily political, economic, gendered. The deepest meaning of human life is participation in the ultimate desire of the universe, which is to be in loving relation in the depths of communion. Brian?
Beautiful.
Really beautiful. There's many things that are being said there. I want to highlight this point Monica made, that talking about reflective consciousness. I mean, it's a slippery topic, but what she said was reflective consciousness was what enabled us to escape this ancient dynamic in life, which was namely that a species, if it fans out, it turns into different species. So we started leaving Africa something like 100,000 years ago, and we fanned out and into Europe and to Asia, and we didn't speciate. We stayed the same. So something amazing is taking place. Consciousness all by itself is a challenge to understand, but we're talking about reflective consciousness.
Reflective.
And I wanted to this idea of reflection. I wanted to just give a couple of examples so we can just think about it. There's been a fundamental change in our understanding of the large-scale structure of the universe, which really comes from Albert Einstein. Like, in a nutshell, we had the idea, excuse me, before Einstein, that the universe consisted of galaxies, of stars, of planets moving in a space that was passive. And now we understand that's not the case. That space itself is a player, is a cause, it's active. What does this mean? It means, in a nutshell, that when you have a galaxy as it's moving, it is changing the curvature of space-time. And so that curvature of space-time is changing the movements of all of the other galaxies in the universe. Now, that would be one direction. But then what happens is, because the curvature of space-time has been changed, it reflects back on the original galaxy that was moving and changes it. So we live in a universe where space itself reflects our activities back upon us. That would be at the level of the universe.
Yeah.
That would be at the level of the universe as a whole. But let me jump then to human consciousness. So, we can say this phrase, humans are conscious, but they're also conscious that they're conscious. That's the reflection back. And that it's easy to say those words, but we have to take in the fact that altered the history of Earth. Like Monica said, the human is a new phylum. And this notion, which again, it's an attempt to understand us. There hasn't been a new phylum in 500 million years. So to understand the human, we have to begin to understand that something, you know, enormous is taking place. And the way how this connects to human consciousness can be seen instantly by thinking about how humans went into the caves, underground, in the darkness, and for no biological reason. They didn't go there for food. They didn't go there for sexual reproduction. They went there to reflect on their consciousness, because they had discovered that they could, by putting marks on a cave wall, they could actually experience a horse galloping. And they, down in the caves, they knew there was no physical horse there, but by reflection, they had come to experience a horse. Monica.
And the constantly evolving consciousness. It's like we've evolved through all these different ways of experiencing these structures of experience, you know, reproductive. Now I think this is my favorite aspect we could talk about, and that's population. The future presses into the present. I keep saying that. And it provides the ultimate meaning of the present. There is a timing included. There's a time for galaxies, a time for life, and a time for the noosphere. It can't be done before, it can't be done after. The universe is irreversible. Structures of complexity are established, enabling new eras of development. The whole offers new potencies with every new emergence, whether it's for a person, a city, a galaxy, a rock. New orders of complexity bring about a holding steady, a release of the pressure, and suddenly there's the energy for something new. All that is needed is a new harness. Population is all about harnessable potencies. Number and size are critical at all levels of development. For instance, in order that our sun could light up, there needed to be 10 to the 57 hydrogen atoms in close proximity. This is because a minimum number of atoms condensing under the force of gravity is required to reach the necessary core temperature for hydrogen fusion. Once initiated, though, the fusion-driven outward pressure counterbalances the star's inward gravitational pull, creating an equilibrium and maintaining the star's stability during its whole main sequence phase. Anything less than about 10 to the 56 hydrogen, and you're going to get a brown dwarf that never quite makes it to a star. By the way, scientists assert up to 100 billion cold, dark brown dwarfs lurk in the depths of interstellar space, comparable to the number of real stars in our galaxy. The holding steady is effortless, but you got to get there. The development is imperiled. The aspect of population can be thought of in terms of tension and tension. Tension between parts is how the intention of the whole is achieved. To be in tension is to make possible the expression of the intention of the whole. Time creates one tension after another. Precisely because of the tension between electromagnetic force and gravitation, the universe arrived at galaxies, Earth, life, and reflective consciousness. Because that tension is balanced and holding steady, potencies for new creativity can be explored and the Earth comes forth. The way the universe communicates its intention is by flooding us with zest for developments that involve great promise, and robbing us of the energy for projects that are now maladaptive. If we don't pay attention to these feelings, There's no way the mysterious intentions of the universe can get to us. Creativity and intention permeate this moment too. The motherlode of ideas, time developmental consciousness is taking hold. Everything's being drawn into time developmental consciousness. In all of our institutions, the leap in becoming is incubating. It took a large number of thinkers in every field to make the discoveries that could overcome the notion of external action, be it God or law, on a static universe. Something of immense importance for all human beings is underway. We are each in a mountain range, a rising noosphere of living relations. Some hardened into habits so steady we mistook them for laws. Others new and emergent, potencies for creativity bursting and ever renewing. And we, the human, exist to focus form. Creativity is topological in our mountain ranges, world making, to bring one future forth and not another. Brian?
Thanks, Monica. There are at least half a dozen ideas in there that would be really great to reflect on. The one I chose is Monica's statement: number is critical at all levels of development. Numbers is critical at all levels of development. I probably chose it because, my main study is mathematics. But I'll tell you the truth, that at first I thought, how could it possibly be just number? But just to give you an example of how that statement applies, if you have the molecule H2O, you can study hydrogen and at a quantum level and oxygen. You can study the chemical bonds between hydrogen and oxygen, but all of that knowledge doesn't lead one to understand how at a certain number of hydrogen and H2O molecules, you get water, you get a watery phenomenon, you get oceans. It's passing that critical number that something amazing takes place. And let me jump to another, I'm just saying it again, but scientists, biologists were somewhat stunned and disappointed to discover that brain cells were so similar to other cells. There's hardly any difference. Maybe we expected to find July 4th firecracker in there or something. Wow, brain cells, shouldn't they be different than what's going on in my big toe? No, they're not really. And yet, when they pass a certain critical number with a certain structure for sure, but when you get 85 billion neurons together, you have human intelligence, you have human consciousness. So there's a magic in the developments taking place in the universe. And the noosphere relates critically here. And it affects the way we see human population. If you have a human population of 25 people, you are never going to get to the noosphere. It required a movement through villages into cities and the amazing interconnections that could take place. And so right now, if we see things with the lens of the noosphere, we don't lament the population and of humans and just say, oh, my God, we should have stayed at 40 million. We're terrible. We're so, no, it's the other possibility is that it required something like 8 billion, 9 billion humans spread around the planet in order for suddenly this monumental change to take place, like going from a pile of molecules to an ocean, where we're now in that moment of moving from a gathering of individuals to the emergence of a thinking earth. Monica.
Hey, our next aspect is tools. Teilhard de Chardin spoke of a tool matrix as the hyperbody. He chose hyperbody, not metabody, because there's no separation of mind and matter, again, but rather a moreness pressing in, a future pressing in, a not yetness. All matter, as well as mind, is generative. Telescopes, steel, steam engines, internal combustion machines, computers extend the human senses and the human will. All are providing a deepening complexification for the human. Tools extend and deepen the body. Experience through the telescope extends us in time and space, that we might see more of what is there, of who we are, and what's giving birth to us. We do not just do things with our tools, we become through them. Our tools give rise to shared experience, provide a habitat with habits of interpretation, a growing habitat of habits that complexifies. We are not separate from its movement. It's a geological movement bringing forth who we are. The hyperbody is everything we build. Pyramids and skyscrapers, intelligent buildings. The pyramids are fantastic. Think of the complex coordination that organized the human workers. Intelligent buildings are a coordination at a whole new level. Each room of an intelligent building is supported by the entire history of the matrix, and it now exists as a niche for further complexification, where I can join a Zoom session and learn with you, or listen to global music, or I can close the blinds and watch a new release film that you guys are also watching in your room. We're seeing together in the dark. Our buildings are part of the tool matrix. The tool matrix is an extension of the human body without the human having to sit around and wait for my body to evolve such an elaborate extension. My hand can hold a spear, so I didn't have to evolve a claw to protect myself. But my hand can also type on a keyboard. I'm free to move about in the tool matrix, unconstrained by my biological body. My body is the whole extended body of the Noosphere's tool matrix. There's no point where my personal body ends. Our creation of our videos as well are part of the hyperbody, a place where we can amplify one part of its body and not another. The universe develops because of desire and longing. Life's diversification and differentiation rest on longing, which leads to elephants and penguins and eagles. For us, our tools satisfy longings. To know mathematics, computers are as important as spears. The desires from the universe. The universe is satisfying its desires through us.
The phrase I'm picking up with tools from your presentation is one that it took me a long time to accept. And that is, we don't just use our tools, we become through them. For my life, not that I reflected on that carefully, but if I had heard that, I'd say, I don't know, 20 years ago, I would object fiercely, because I would feel like it was reducing me to tools, part of the mechanization of the world. But I've come to appreciate that. And I think each of us can reflect on whether or not that's true. In America, in the West, individualism is such a strong, powerful force that we can be content thinking of, I know who I am, right? And I use these tools, they're over there. But here's one tool that really made it clear for me. And it was the radio telescope used by Robert Wilson and Arno Penzias to discover the cosmic microwave background. So that, when I came here last time and spoke about cosmogenesis, the whole book is a reflection on how I became through this tool, this radio telescope. That is, I'm a different person. I think differently because of that, and I think this too, this concept of the noosphere coming from Teilhard de Chardin, this can also enable us to see our true nature at a planetary level in a way that is refreshing and liberating. More can be said, but I just wanted to back up that statement by Monica. Monica?
Hey, one more aspect here. The next two are connected. The way some of these, they're all connected, but this is cerebralization. No, actually, my next one, I did, yeah, sorry. The next two are not connected. Cerebralization is connected to tools. Because while tools are the body-like aspect of the hyperbody, cerebralization is its corresponding mind-like aspect. So when we understand that relationship and time's generativity is the primary real stuff of the universe, then body and mind are completely melded. Dualism is an illusion. Matter and mind can be analyzed separately for one purpose or another, but matter, separate from mind, is not real. What's fundamentally real are continually evolving relationships and recursively generative flow, not isolated bits of matter on the one hand, and something like mind that we can't be too sure about on the other. The hyperbody is a beast with a mind-like aspect. We use Teilhard's word, cerebralization, to refer to it. Cerebralization is giving rise to collective consciousness. Just as the tools are the extended body of humanity, cerebralization is the process whereby human thought is externalized in symbols, law codes, cultural conventions that endure and evolve through time. The cerebrum is humanity's collective reflective mind that provides an evolving structure for thinking and experience. It is our birthright. We are not human without it. Every thought we have arises within its constraints. It's also where the unique creative potentials of every one of us are awakened. The development of the matrix of cerebralization is an expression of an underlying spiritual energy that is just present in the universe. We can feel this energy as the pressing in of the future upon us. What we're becoming is lured by or pulled by something in the future. For some reason, the universe has created a noospheric cerebrum that awakens our unique creative potentials for further transformation. Otherwise, how could leap in beings ever occur? What is needed are qualitatively new institutions, algorithms, economics, science, art, music, even AI, that provide structure for thinking and experience that replaces the outmoded and destructive modes. We will invent them. Brian?
Probably cerebralization is the most controversial aspect, like in the world of science. And also it's a word we don't use normally. I mean, Monica and I have talked about communication. We talked about heredity, tools. We can relate to this, but cerebralization, it's a strange word, and it's even it's the most, like I say, controversial. What we are saying is that again, this is picking up on Monica's statement that this is about the mind-like aspect of the noosphere. So what we are saying is that the universe has an aim. The universe has what it's moving toward. It's trying to get somewhere. And part of what that aim is refers to cerebralization. The universe wants to become more mind-like. Now, this is something that as opposed to what we're saying, a lot of science in the last 4 centuries, would regard mind as an accidental eruption, a chance event. No, we're saying something different. And here's a spiritual exercise for all of you that are interested. Just sit down in this anywhere really, and notice one of the ants crawling along. An ant has a brain and a nervous system. So bring that to mind as you're looking at the ant. And then, so the universe, billions of years were required to develop that mind of the ant. Now, when ants come together and create a hive, as I referred to earlier, you have a higher order of mind. The ant as a colony is more intelligent than any one individual ant. That process is the process of cerebralization. I'm going to jump to a human, bring it home in a human way. Early humans lived in the islands in Indonesia. There's thousands of them, and they made their way back and forth from the islands. But as they did this, there was a limit to how far any one of the vessels they made could go. But by comparing their achievements, their synergy that resulted in ocean-going vessels that crossed over into Australia. And right there is the example of cerebralization at the human level. We think and create together. It's not possible, actually, to think in an isolated way. And the noosphere is using that power to become even more intelligent. Monica.
Okay, 2 more. Trade. Next is the aspect of trade. Trade's an aspect of the development of the noosphere is analogous to the second law of thermodynamics. I'm wondering how this is going to go over. In the second law of thermodynamics, energy dissipates and spreads. Through trade, items that are desired spread out. And as they spread, development takes place. Use can be made of the potency in new places. It's the same with the sun's bestowal of energy. The sun's light spreads out in all different directions of the solar system, including the direction of Earth. Cyanobacteria learn to use the sun's light for oxygenic photosynthesis. That was game-changing. So trade is something that happens throughout the universe as entities deepen in relation, face to face with one another. Sunlight spreading through a continent-sized forest is money spreading through Europe and Asia. The nuanced relationships of a leaf with its face to the sun is the nuanced relationship between trading partners as they learn each other's culture. At the species level, the predator-prey relationship is a face-to-face relationship of trade that leads to mutual benefit. If you've ever listened to Brian's lecture series called The Canticle, you will read of the hawk and the mouse. The hawk may wish the mouse was slower, but in so doing, he is wishing for his own demise. The hawk has his eyesight and the precision of his flight because the mouse can run fast and dart about. Without one another, they would each be undeveloped. Magic happens in tension, the essential racket for creative development. Ratchet for oh, whatever. Coming face to face with your enemy leads to creativity. What happened in the case of human trade was an understanding of what it meant to be equal and a tremendous advance in abstraction with symbols. Trade exists so that we might satisfy the desires of our trading partners and our own at the same time. Dialogue is a critical new way of communicating. Trade is a mutual benefit that leads not only to the development of species, but to the rising tide of noogenesis, the new order of existence, which in Teilhard's vision offsets the flow, the outflowing flood of entropy from the sun's bestowal, and perhaps even from the geological and biological destruction we see. An overshooting, perhaps, but a rising tide of a new order such that the noosphere grows even as entropy prevails on the existing orders. Something beyond our possibilities of imagining is happening. A particle cannot imagine a cell. My red blood cells cannot imagine me. But cells invented photosynthesis. Deep down inside, there is a directed creativity. We can be sure of that. And we can be sure that on the human level, mutual enhancement and powerful connections established by trade are the pathway into the future.
Yeah. Trade as a pathway into the future. The sentence I really, really love, Monica, is sunlight spreading through a continent-sized forest is money spreading throughout the world, so that we can really summarize all of this by putting it in a phrase. With trade, maybe not a phrase, a couple phrases. With trade, the great thing about trade is that each side feels like it's getting the better deal. In the sense that there's equality in terms of how much effort is made to produce what is being traded, but what one gets through the trade is something that one needs. So both sides get what they need for their development to move forward. That's why. So the trading partners both experience an acceleration of their development. Monica.
And finally, there's convergence. When two or more humans, each with their unique heredity, each with particular extensions into the matrix of cerebralization and tools, when two or more humans come together through communication and trade and discover a mutual understanding and purpose, the result is convergence. The time for convergence is now. The noosphere is rising. The universe is experiencing itself as a communion event in human consciousness. Other animals fanned out and changed their bodies to deepen into their biomes. The shrew became the elephant, the penguin, and the whale. The spread of humans on a round earth folded humans back on themselves, and we're now a single species around the planet. The same anatomy, The singular ability of humans to fan out without speciating has given rise to a new phylum. This comes about because of the deepening mutuality in relationship. Communion, cooperation, and fitting with others are necessary for our survival. Humanity is also where evolution acts in conscious self-awareness. Teilhard said, quote, "To think the world is not merely to record it, but to confer on it a form of unity it would never have had it not been thought. Discovery and synthesis are not merely speculation, but creation on the insides of things, where the knowing becomes so much more than the explicit perception. We feed the future with our thoughts and actions and by the relationships we form. We become what we choose to eat. Primal people believe that they're actually creating the universe. They are right, we were. The question becomes, what shall I feed and where will I find my nourishment? I'll tell you something I learned from Brian a long time ago. The retinal molecule is what allows my eye to see in the visible light spectrum. It evolved from chlorophyll. Isn't that amazing? I mean, the sensitivity to light I have in my eye is diffusely present in all of life's plants. The sun is in my eye. And now, more than that, not only is the sun in my eye, with the noosphere, I can now experience myself in communion with the universe. The plants see the sun, the vertebrates see one another, and I see the movement we are in. Mm-hmm. That which we respond to is who we are becoming. Cosmogenesis is best lived in implicit relations because that's where it happens. It is so easy, it seems, for us to look at the world, to issue our assessments, to take measurements and give advice. It is far more difficult for us to accept and love others where we find them, our families, to resist arguing, to resist countering, opposing, to fit and amplify what we love instead. To feed our relationships is feeding the future. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Oh, wow.
One last thing.
Yeah, please do.
No, let's end right there. That's a great ending. Yeah, but
yeah.
Okay, all right. Our minds are aglow. And before we get to the many, many questions that have been posed in our chat room, and I'm sure where people want to speak, you have kindly invited us to reflect on how our work with the Cuyamaga Institute, ecstatic trance states achieved through our ritual body posture practice, relates to this as a direct experience in dialogue with Gaia, in dialogue with the universe herself, and how we have these metaphorical, experiential, emotional, direct knowing, energetic experiences. And what I want to say is that everything that you have laid out here for us to contemplate and to grok adds so much depth and understanding to our experience.
Thank you.
Direct experience. It is though the universe, through these expanded states where we go beyond rational thinking, where our ancestors first embodied the spiritual practice, embodied this dialogue, used our inner physiology, technology to expand a state to be in the direct communion that you describe.
Right.
Where we're so caught up with our screens, our little screens here, right? Our screen here.
But even before the screens, we were tied up with little screens.
The inner screen of our mind has been our first and primary screen.
Right.
That has flipped on in this way to be the screen in which we see and experience and download what the universe wants to teach us, wants to love us into knowing. I mean, everything that you describe, we have direct experiences to correlate with this. So you have invited us to look at this, and I will go through your 8 aspects quickly and tell you what experiences we have
Yeah.
that directly embody what you're saying.
Can I just add one more
Awesome.
thing? And that is what the power of what we're talking about here for me, and aside from just the Institute's work, but all work of humanity that takes the time for that deeper resolution and connection to that field of that depth of field of consciousness, whether it's a practice of meditation or something else. All of these aspects, it's not only touching something greater than ourselves, it's so necessary for the integration
Yeah.
and for the future of humanity that we all find ways. It is the technology that's at our fingertips now to not only have an intellectual discussion about the noosphere, but to try to live it, to try to breathe it, to try to integrate it into our lives.
Well, I want to say that when you start with heredity and memory, we often wonder, why is it that a simple ritual, that the body could respond to the simple ritual and make these profound physiological shifts that support this hybrid state of a waking dream? We often ask that question, how do we do that? We just let the body do it. We trust the body, we trust the process, we trust the universe, we trust the spirit. And by the term spirit, we mean, what are we actually tapping? You have given such language and infrastructure to what we're actually tapping. We are tapping the universe herself and the dialogue of us unfolding us. And that's what we're tapping. We would just call it the all or the spirit, or there's so many terms right through the ages. But I think you have so brilliantly defined what it is and how the universe calls us to this state. We can't help but be at this state. We go, yeah, we can achieve this spontaneously, but our ancestors gave us a formula that still works today that opens us up to it. We can dial this up on demand and open up our pores to be an open bandwidth for this dialogue, for this energy, for this calling forth. And so that's how we understand our practice. But this heredity, this memory, it's there because the universe called us to it. Our ancestors laid the neurological pathways for it, and it's there within us to tap in as we choose. It wants us to be there. Our bodies, our souls, our minds, our hearts we are called to this dialogue in this way. Now I understand it. I don't have to question it. I understand it. This communication rooted at every level. Yes, we are. Energetically, direct knowing, emotionally with human flourishing, just our pores open. And we are the receptor sites. We are transmitters and receivers for this. We are assigned to this. And we get that in our trance states where the universe is talking to us in gesture and symbology and direct knowing and emotion and color and symbol and verbiage. You know, it's saying, yeah,
Across
on
time
every
and
level,
space.
across time and space.
Yeah.
And you mentioned across time and space. We often get the sense that when we are beholding this, that we are passing it down through our own lineage and we're passing it forward, that time and space behave differently in these realms and that we are affecting past, present, future. But I understand what you're saying. We're connected. That two-way street of time and space, we're connected. We're in that liminal space where it's actually forming us, molding us, shaping us, informing us.
All relations.
It's very fluid.
All relations.
We're in that
Right.
space.
Yeah.
There's no difference. It's a flow. Reflective, this neotechnic nature. We can't help but have our cells have created this for this flow. I don't have to question it. It's built into our hardware. We are in our software. We couldn't help but evolve to this space. We are exactly where we need to be. And we get that over and over again. We get pats on the back. We get held and embraced, and we just get the message, you are where you need to be and you're unfolding and we are there with you. You are our children.
If I could also interject with, Dr. Goodman had an interesting term. She called it psychological archaeology, that when this is reflective memory, this is reflective consciousness, that when we do the practice and hold these postures, knowledge about the particular aspect seems to come forward in ways that archaeologists haven't been able to discover because there's no written word and there's not much documentation. So we have to rely on something. And the human connection that we have to our entire line of ancestry, it's there for us to tap into, to have some connection with. So not, just purely from the experiential, we have
Yeah.
to trust that the experience of being human has an equal place on the table.
I think Paul's referring to the fact that we're working with Todd and Christine Van Poel, anthropologists, and they're doing this work with us. And we're recording these sessions. They're doing databases of our experience. They're looking at this. And very often, Christine, after participating in our trance states and listening to us go around the circle about what those experiences are, she will pull down a pot from her archaeological digs. Her and Todd have dug
In the Southwest.
Mesoamerica in the Southwest, and she'll go, oh, what I've heard you all talk about is reflected exactly in the shaman's symbology and iconography in this pot. Your experiences are the exact that this is expressed in this culture of many thousands of years ago as a legacy for the universe, as a description of their interactions with the cosmos as well. It's one and the same that we're experiencing. We can see at many levels the correlates to this. That's what you're referring to. So this is an eternal now that we're experiencing.
Population is the next one.
Oh boy. Yeah. The universe floods us with emotion. Yes. We are flooded with the sense of we are one with the all. We are the individual in the unity simultaneously. We are appreciated. We are understood. We are sacred. All of life is sacred. That we are this joy and creativity. We are filled up so much to the brim that we can't help but overflow. And we are assigned to be the liaisons between earth and heaven, between ourselves and the cosmos. It comes up through our spine. It goes out through our crown chakras. We are downloading life force, and we are essential nodules to help the network of energy in the universe then spill out onto earth. We are essential components to this energy flow. That's what we get over and over and over again. Our assigned roles are here as that in part, and much, much more, I think. And that we are co-creators. We are dancing with the universe. The universe is breathing through us. We get that over and over. And population, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to add to the next one. Next tools.
We are being incubated.
Tools is a fascinating thing for me because there's that drive and that's something in the human experience that wants us to create, to do these tools. And it goes way beyond just pure function. And our last international trip that we took was to the island of Malta. And you look at these magnificent temples all around this island and what they built and the size of the stones and the amount of effort that these humans went through to represent something from within themselves. There's something that drives us. For tools, for representation of that, of who we are and how it's being reflected. We're not satisfied just with shelter. We're not satisfied with just the simplest of things. When we're making a knife and carving it out of an antler, it takes so much time to the precision of it. If you look down through different cultures and
art is incorporated in the tools, symbology.
It's not even called art.
Purpose.
Before the word art came along.
Sacred.
Before. So, I mean, that's more the physical world stuff. But for me, because I feel such a drive, and I'm sure everybody here does too, that I have to create. I have to do something significant. I want to be moving forward, and it goes beyond the necessities of what I need to live. Because I probably could just retire and stop moving, but I don't. That would be the last thing I would do. I mean, there's a drive within us.
When you talk about the hyperbody and the potency of tools, I want to say that Julie Strider, who's on our board of directors and a member of our community, mentioned, Brian, the other day, that when she read your book and you looked at the significance of calculus as being anchored in this sacred knowledge, she said she's a surveyor in England, lots of math. But she had A levels in mathematics, and nobody ever mentioned that to her before in all of her studies. And she's in the UK, where you would think this would be part and parcel of it, right? But she said it blew her mind to realize calculus was a sacred tool. It has to do with Earth and its cycles and the cosmos. And she just said, oh, and that sense of the sacred in our tools, in our hyperbody, in our ancients' creations, of the pyramids, of sacred geometry, of everything that we did was held sacred and reflected that cosmic relationship with our cosmos and the earth that is where we began our tools. That is where all of our ritual tools were about celebrating that connection, opening that connection. How did we lose that through time? It's time for us to reclaim that. And that humanity's been with that relationship from the get-go. Yes, we're expanding it, we're developing, we're complexifying it, but it's time to reclaim that relationship with our cosmos, with our earth, personal relationships. And that is one thing that this work does, because it was anchored in the past in that sacred relationship of reclaiming balance with ourself, our community, our universe. It was anchored in that. It's time to bring that forward and dance with that again, because we have those. That is the one thing that this work gives us, a personal relationship with the sun. We are its ancestor. We are its children. It's a star. All the stars are our ancestors. We get that in direct experience. We get to dance with the moon and the earth and Gaia and the sun and the cosmos at large. This is our backyard. And we are taken there over and over again, that going within, we suddenly come out to the universe. We often see a huge eye. Over and over again, our participants report a single eye, and it is gazing at us with intelligence. And then you get closer and closer, and you're just gazing at one another. And then we see in the iris, we see the Milky Way spinning. And suddenly we're out there in the cosmos. And you know, that kind of sense of awe and wonder and unity, that's the magic, that's the elixir that I think we're all wanting to seek, and it's right there for us. And so that's part of what we experience over and over and over again. And people can come to this work for the first time and have that kind of peak experience. People are often in tears when they report their experience. And that is what the universe is calling us home again. And that's the relationship I believe we came from, and that we are meant to go to again. And that is built into our physiology, our DNA. That is the heredity, Monica, that you spoke of. It's right there. We are built of that thread. We are built of that. And I appreciate how all of you are putting it together to behold that through our intellect. We are the piece of direct experience that shows us in the broader bandwidth of our minds and souls beyond the rational and linear, to have that. So that's the tool that is activated within us. We are that tool to access that as well.
Almost empirical.
As our minds,
I'm sorry.
we are there to experience that in its fullest bandwidth. That inner screen lights up, and we are shown that. We are told that story. We are a participant in that story as we go off on spirit journeys. We go off on these adventures. The universe lifts us up and takes us on these journeys that in myriad ways, she tells us that story again and again and again. And what is beautiful to behold each person's experience is the myriad ways in which that's described, in which that person has gone on that journey to only come to those conclusions. So it longs for us to connect, and boy, it's reaching out and spiriting us away.
It's almost like empirical science is coming full circle, looking back to the indigenous cultures in the world, the experiments of humanity throughout time, and saying, oh, there's a place for the experiential. There's a place to understand the subjective part of it, which when you say the word subjective, it's been dismissed in the past. But say, no, we have to collect the data.
Direct experience.
The data of the direct experience. If there's a way we can crunch the data and make it into something that we can digest from a scientific point of view.
When you talk about mind and body melding, I want to say that this is so much about the embodied spirituality, but honoring the body as the container for this. It's through the body and its natural shifts that can take place in response to a ritual that we are given this sacred space. This is a sacred space right here. The universe is a sacred space. Here is the sacred space that we can honor. And you only get there through gratitude and humbleness and surrender to the universe, right? The eye of the needle is going through that in innocence and joy and gratitude. You don't get there through arrogance and hubris. You need to surrender to this process. And then it shows you the all. It shows you that you are one of the eyes witnessing the all, and that we grow and expand through becoming one with the all and seeing through this multitude of eyes, to become our brain, to become as large as the universe and catch a glimpse of it. That's truly how we grow and expand. To be one with the all is to see all that it's seeing. A mere glimpse is enough.
Mm.
It's welcoming us to that circle where we can dance with the ancestors, we can dance with all the other spirits and beings and consciousnesses of that.
Yeah.
Such a glorious experience. And we don't try to dial this up through the intellect. We don't say this is what we want. We just open up and invite the universe.
Yeah.
And it delivers to us what we want on a personal level, but also a collective level.
Well, tapping
Yeah,
into
over and
reflective
over again.
consciousness.
And sometimes it takes us down into Mother Earth, into her
Mm.
womb,
Yeah.
and sometimes her agony and pain, and sometimes her caves and dark spaces to incubate, to be incubated and collectively dissolved into nothingness, composted, and then reformed again,
Yeah.
and then shooting up back into the cosmos to deliver the next cycle. Life, death, and rebirth is, again, a common and repetitive message.
Yeah.
So,
That was
yeah, I just want to go through the cultural conventions. We honor how beautifully our ancestors used art and symbology to convey these messages, even the ritual instructions, to hold our bodies in various configurations, to be like antenna to focus a frequency or to ritual instructions. Lots to be said on that. The trade, the lovely concept of the sun shining on us and us then dissipating its energy, changing it, downloading it, making it part of a nodule to download it into where we can access it, is part of that trade network, and then dispense it. So
Yeah.
we say that over and over again, this cultural exchange. We can go back to the Gretian globalization and see the passage of ritual body posture instructions in artwork. We can see its flow around the world. We can see the same postures shown again and again through cultures over time and space. So I think that the beauty of art and symbology
right.
as containers of ritual, of cultural identity and instruction, and the symbiotic relationship. Lots to say on that, to say we call you forth. Let's see, what else?
Well, I just say that
Yeah.
that's why we need the poets, we need the musicians, we need the artists to stand shoulder to shoulder with the
Yeah.
quantum physicists and the anthropologists and the archaeologists and the astronomers side by side together to really reveal the human story. It has to have it all in order for us to have the true picture of what it is, that the gift of life itself.
The divinization that you talked about,
Yeah.
this is part of that process to behold that all is sacred, that we can and do touch the hem of something larger than ourselves, that the universe is in fact speaking to us and helping us evolve, teaching us, carrying us along in its evolution. And when you talk about we see each other in the dark, indeed we do. We almost behold the void at times, the dark energy that we see without seeing. There's so many ways of all of our inner senses being set aglow to see in the dark, to see these other realms, to see what has remained hidden when we're only here in our ordinary reality. We must go to this alternate reality to see the all. It is calling us forth and giving us passage. The sun in my eye, it illuminates. That life force that it gives us illuminates so we can see in the dark in these new ways.
Yeah.
We are the stars' children. The stars are ancestors. We see that over and over. We have these relationships with this, with the stars.
Well, thank you for inviting us to talk more
Wow.
about our work in
We could go on and on.
conjunction with
But we have much more to
this
accomplish
incredible
here.
discussion and presentation that you've done today. We do have hands up,
Put-
and so I'm going to
we
take.
put what we do in brilliant new context
Right.
and given us additional language to speak of it.
Yeah.
So we thank you for that.
And,
all the work
I
that
would
you
just,
do.
I'll go to
All the
Brian.
brilliant work that you do.
I'll go to Brian Tucker later, but, we've been having these ongoing series of conversations on global consciousness, on global collective consciousness, and trying to understand that role of going from the me to the we, and using this concept of the noosphere and understand, of course, of course, there's that interconnection, that grid of life itself that we all tap into. And it's important that we take time to acknowledge it, because a lot of the quote unquote spirituality practices are somewhat selfish in focus and saying, let's step outside of our own, like, who am I and what do I
When you are
mean?
filled to the brim, you cannot but help spill
Yes,
it over and
what does the universe mean? Not what do I mean?
It's calling us
What is
forth
my
to do
what,
our
no, what is
job.
my calling, but what is the calling of the universe, and how can I work with that?
Lastly,
Yeah.
I want to say that as directors of this institute, we have been tasked with what Dr. Goodman, who put this work based on her research into ancient practices back on the
Right.
table and made it accessible for our time, because it is eternal. It is built into our physiology. We share the same physiology, as you point out, with those ancestors. And what she said to us in her newsletter, last words were, "I cannot wait to see where this work is going to go." And so she laid such a firm academic foundation with her specific protocol adapted for us today. Receive this vision, let it carry you away. Be the open vehicle for this to come and pour forth with you. See what these ancestors and these spirits have to say to you, what the universe is saying to you. I want to say that this and what you're doing and the convergence of this is such an exciting next chapter. It is what the universe is calling forth for this work. So
Yeah.
thank you for this.
Yeah.
So this is,
Well,
in many ways that we're trying to push this forward, this is a key one. So
that will teach
I'm
you to,
looking forward to working with you on this.
I was going to
Thank
say
you.
that will teach you to pass the talking stick to us. Next time,
No,
be
it was
careful.
great. It was great. Great to hear. Thank
Well,
you.
let's throw, Tony's got his
Well,
hand
before
up.
that, I
Rex
want
is
to
gonna-
hear Monica
Oh,
and
okay.
Brian's comments on
Okay.
anything we
Any
said.
comments? Anything
Then
that
we'll
we
go
just,
up to our
yeah.
open phones. Yeah. Open mics.
Brian, go first.
Well, I just, of the many things that lit me up, this idea of bringing back the sense of the sacred in terms of in all aspects of it. I mean, the art and the body movement and ritual. I think that's absolutely what's going on. It's like the at least one form of contemporary science is folding back in resonance with an indigenous wisdom of various kinds. So I'm thrilled by that, to be part of that.
Yeah.
Monica.
There's so much of what you said that I could just feel, and I've listened carefully to Paul and you, Laura, introduce what's happening in these ecstatic trance sessions, and also on Sundays where you're talking about the Institute, and felt an incredible alignment with all of it. And then there's like ways of articulating what that's all about, and some things that I feel are just so important about a new way of going forward. And I have to admit, I mean, I have to get I mean, this is something I've always had to work on. I'm like a meter for the wording that I can accept. I mean, not this, not that. I don't want anyone talking about consciousness and mind and as separate things. I always want to emphasize the relational, because it's my call tag or something. Because it pushes us beyond that. So I recognized in your language, an evolving way in which you're speaking about it in ways that resonate with me, where I just feel like such alignment with what you guys are doing. And then I keep coming further in line with your way of thinking about it, because I've become comfortable with using language like divinization. It wasn't something that I could feel before, but I think of the generativity of time as being something that's present in a little atom and molecule. It used to be, I would think, wait a minute, matter, you can't say matter doesn't have consciousness, but it's not that. It doesn't matter if it has consciousness. It's got generativity. It's about something. It's becoming along with everything else,
Yeah.
So I don't want to argue anymore about whether matter has consciousness.
I think it provides the infrastructure for the flow of consciousness that you are needed.
Yeah.
Yes, like the different is, it's like it's about something. It's generative. It's going somewhere, and it has to be
for the complexification. It needs it for the directive flow.
Yeah.
And what I appreciate about you is that what we see and experience is something that is in dialogue with us. You talk about the allurement, you talk about the love of the universe. We feel that full blast. And it is asking us, filling us up, loving us, alluring us, bringing us along with it. It's just quite the ride. It's quite the joyful, amazing ride. It's like, oh my God.
That's a great way to say it.
Turn on the fire hose and like download, being blasted. Waves of bliss, actually pulses. You describe pulses, waves of bliss flowing through your whole body being lit up. It as a glow. It's like there's nothing else to describe that. It's like, yeah, universe is loving me. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, I'm a vehicle of it. Unmistakable. Let's put my finger in the socket of the universe and feel its full energy. Yeah, I'll take that. Oh yeah, thank you. Yeah.
I think it
I'll
would
sign
be
up.
great to hear, from you guys and from anyone who wants to talk about it. Is like, how does it help you in your daily living?
That's another-
Within
yeah.
your relationships that you then go back to participate in ecstatic trance. How does it change how you interact with
Let's
others?
address
I'll
that
just
later.
really quickly. My father brought us up to be very moral, good people. But, sometimes struggle to always do the right thing or to feel the emotions that you want. As a child, I noticed that. I would try to meet his bar, but, you have the whole range of emotions as a kid. This fills you up with the emotions that are most useful and beautiful to feel. I don't have to try. I'm filled with gratitude, compassion, unconditional love, understanding, emotional resilience. It's like I'm drinking from the universe as well. And that's what it's delivering to me. I don't have to try.
Yeah.
It's just there. And then I can use that in my life.
It's like
That's my short answer.
rebooting a computer and clearing out the cache.
Oh, I like that.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Monica.
I'll take some questions and comments,
We have
starting
to
with
go overtime. Are you guys okay with overtime a little bit?
Sure.
I
Yeah.
am. I can.
okay,
I'll sit
Tony,
in
Rex,
all day.
Georgie is next. So Tony's first, then Rex and Georgie. Raise your hands if you want to participate
I
as
just want to
well.
say also that the universe is evolving and speaking and changing. We're going to take
Yeah.
these in order
Okay.
received. Yeah.
Okay. So we got with Tony first. Hi, Tony.
Well, hi all, and thank
Hi.
you. Very interesting discussion. I should say, first of all, I'm an astronomer, so I'm looking at things from the point of view of science, but I'm also somebody who's had a number of intuitive experiences, let me put it that way,
Great.
including virtually everything I've discovered has come to me by intuition. But then I go and prove it. I'd have two questions really. The first struck my interest because I've been involved in looking for exo-Earths and developing instrumentation that can do this. And we're talking about the evolution of us, the life form on Earth, and particularly over the last 100,000 years or whatever period. But other Earths may be in very different phases of evolution. They may be way ahead of us. They may be way behind us. And how does this resonate through the universe? Have you thought of that?
Wherever that is happening, and I believe it is. I feel like it has to be the same complexification consciousness process that we see going on here on Earth, I believe, is going on there.
We're not unique in that, are we?
The vast expanse of time, we may never come into contact with it, but it seems to me that complexity consciousness that Teilhard talked about and evolution are so fundamental as to be whatever's going on in existence anywhere.
Well, so is redundancy. The universe doesn't take chances. It's going to create multitudes, right? In her exploration.
Yeah.
It's not going to give it a one-off. Yeah.
If it's this universe, I mean, maybe there's another universe.
I'm sure there are.
Let's ask
In
Tony.
this universe, complexity.
But then again, there is a theory that this is a rare Earth and that this would not happen elsewhere.
Yeah.
And there are some good arguments for that too.
Yeah.
But we're going to find out, and that's part of the intention of Habitable Worlds Observatory, that that will be
Yeah.
like Webb on steroids going up in about 25 years.
Yeah.
All right,
Tony,
so,
you
so
had a
that,
wonder. Go ahead.
You got to keep alive, Tony. That's exciting.
Yeah.
well, I intend to, of course. We all will.
Yeah.
I
Okay,
just want to say I
so
appreciate Tony being a scientist and a mystic as well. And Tony, describe your first experience with ecstatic trance with us. You had a lovely comment as an astrophysicist.
well, I did. It took me into a dream that I had as a child. And it ceased about when I was maybe 6, 7, 8. I forget exactly when. I called it the blue dream. And I was floating in space. And I had that experience the first time I did trance with Laura and Paul. I was there in an isolated instance. I was not part of a workshop, but they were kind enough to do the whole thing there, and it was quite a wonderful experience. I really appreciated that.
Yeah. Thank you.
But I do have another question, and this is an important question to me.
Okay.
And we talked about the Big Bang, and the theory of the Big Bang, of course, started early in the 20th century. And then we had the discovery of Penzias and Wilson, where they were looking at the accidental result of there being about 3 degrees of antenna noise in these calibrated microwave horn antennas. And at first it couldn't be figured out, but then they discovered that it was isotropic and it was consistent with the model of the Big Bang. So here's a bit of evidence happening. And then we had subsequent work by Mather and others to discover that this is actually anisotropic, that it's different in different directions. And we began to make this more and more into an observational science. And of course, with Webb and we're finding other things. Webb is designed to look back very early in the universe, and I think Brian alluded to some of that. What I'm seeing, and please tell me if I'm wrong, that you are presenting a theory very much like the Big Bang theory was before the Penzias and Wilson. You do not have the direct, you have the intuitive feeling that this is correct, but you do not have the evidence, very much like the discovery that was made at Bell Telephone Labs with Penzias and Wilson. You don't have that yet, and we don't yet have the work of Mather and the work of Nobelist John Mather and others. Am I correct in saying that you have a theory? It's a consistent theory. You're presenting a language for it, for understanding different aspects, but we're not saying it's fact yet. We're saying at least it's not a scientific fact. Just like when I've had intuition about what the right answer is in science, I can't publish that. I have to go out. I mean, I can say I have an intuition, but I can't say it is until I have evidence.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's accurate. I would another way of saying, see if this sounds congruous with what you're saying. Right now we have these theories of the noosphere, and they go from say weak to strong. The weak version of the noosphere is a simple recognition that human mentation involves the collective. I mean, it's the most obvious thing when you think about it, that when we work on any scientific project, we're drawing upon the geniuses of the past, so that it's a collective work, necessarily because of our power of passing down knowledge through time. Now you go all the way through. Some people regard the noosphere as an actual organism called a superorganism. It's kind of like an ant colony. Well, there's a lot of evidence that supports that. But then you go further into the most radical form, and this would be to say that there's a one-pointed consciousness to the noosphere as a whole, so that at a certain time in life, all of life was unicellular. And then we had this amazing moment of developing multicellular organisms. And so a dog actually has thoughts that emerge at that higher level, that don't take place at the unicellular level. So then the radical view is that we're at that moment of going from unicellular to multicellular with the development of a new mind, not just a collective effect of humanity, but an actual new mind. And for that, I would say that's intuition without yet scientific support
I have something
or
to
evidence.
And I see a comment from Matt here, and I'd like to reply to that. Science is a method. It's a cutting edge. It is not a philosophy. It is not a religion. The most exciting thing to happen in science is to prove that a theory is wrong, and that means we can go on to the next step. So there's no attempt to exclude, although there are some dinosaurs and politics and things like that in it, which I totally acknowledge. But the scientific method is basically a filter. It's saying, okay, when you can measure something, you measure it and you see if it fits the model, as Monica and Brian have expressed. In this case, you see how it fits, and maybe there's a ninth term, for example, that would be important. And I think you both are very open to that. At least that would be my interpretation from what you're saying.
Yeah.
Well,
Definitely.
say something here, and that is that you began your discussion by saying we can't just analyze this, that we need to provide a pathway to behold on the way to becoming, being, behold, become, being, that we need to go beyond just the rational and the linear. We can't just analyze it, as you say. And I really believe there is such a need for this expanded language of the arts,
Well,
which shouldn't be in conflict with the sciences, but which should add to it and expand the bandwidth here. And that, Tony, what if our models are inadequate?
Just like we now know about the Big Bang, we know a lot about it, and it was somewhat speculative a long time ago. It came to pass that we can look at things that way. Yes, we should absolutely look at all possibilities. I'm totally in favor of that. The danger is when we proclaim that it's locked down in truth and you can design an engine based on it, before we really understand what it is.
The only engine I'm interested in right here, because you're taking care of the other engines, is this one right here. And so I think that there's just a beautiful diversity of each of us having different turf, and it's all coming together. I don't want to say one is more important than the other. I think they're all needed here. But I think what's so interesting to me, and you're an astrophysicist, you know space in that way. We know space in another way. Monica just said space is a player. And then when this relaxed field comes together in the alternate reality, we can find new combinations, we can find new growth, we can find new potentialities. And that's where we seem to go. So I want to say that what we're representing and tapping is this other missing part of the equation. I just want to put this forward, Tony.
Well, I introduced myself as somebody who works very intuitively. And you know that.
Thank you.
Well enough. You know that.
So I'm not talking from the point of view of a scientist. I'm just saying that science depends on intuition. If we didn't have intuition, there'd be almost no discovery. Scientific discovery is not done by making 10,000 experiments and seeing which one is right. That almost never happens. It comes from I have an idea of what's happening. I'm studying this out. I'm paying attention, just like Monica and Brian are paying attention. And these things seem to fit together in this way. And then we go and we look. And eventually methods come to look. Like we now have the Webb telescope.
And we've had those discussions on the many scientists who dream their new insights too. So it can come that way as well.
Absolutely.
Not to argue with you. I just wanted to put this on the table.
No.
I love that, Tony, that you're recognizing that we're very open-minded and really not trying to overstate like scientific claims. I appreciate that, because I've always appreciated science, probably far more than I've ever appreciated any of the spiritualities, and I'm very skeptical and things like that. Yeah. But Laura, I love that you just picked up on the part about play, that space is playing. And, I talked about play being so important to the human, but there's things about, play is important in an evolving universe. So when those structures hold steady, there's not much opportunity for play. It's hardened,
To
and
experiment, to
open potentials for creativity to emerge. But every once in a while, I've heard about some things in biology, like from the thinker Terence Deacon. He was talking one time about vitamin C. Brian, will you tell this, because you remember it better than me? Vitamin C.
we lost the ability to synthesize it in our bodies. So we need to seek it in our food.
Okay, yeah. Well, the place on the DNA structure where color vision is located exactly in the genes that once manufactured vitamin C.
Ah,
Okay, so vitamin C, so the animal, it makes its own, certain animals, to a certain
like
point,
dogs.
certain animals make their own vitamin C, out of which, other animals evolve. And then, so they no longer need that gene that can lead to the making of vitamin C.
So it opened up to a new role.
It opens up to play,
Mm-hmm.
and it begins thinking, what am I? It starts evolving, starts speciating and creating it's just exploring new potencies. And now an animal that's not making its own vitamin C, it needs to see plants and colors to know when things are ripe and has vitamin C.
Oh, I see. I'll detect it in my environment.
So that's the biological world going out to play. I find things like that fascinating. That's a scientific discovery that connects up with how we can feel about the universe and in the noosphere here, and how it can apply in our own lives. What do I do now? I mean, I don't have to be a scientist. I don't have to be a philosopher or anything else. How do I deal with my life?
And also, I think it gave us the perception of beauty and color and form. I need to seek out vitamin C and this healthy nutrient, and I'm going to be attracted to these things. I love that you said we got here through play. And I appreciate the new insight about our hardware, our physiology. Hey, it's a good system. Now let's start developing this interiority. I think that's so beautiful. Let's focus on that. This is the software we need to develop next.
I just want to say one thing. Can I just say one thing? And so there's Rex, Georgie, Lynn, and Nick.
Yeah.
It would be nice if we committed to them and just say, we're going to talk until all of them get their.
Thank you.
Get their,
Thank you. Brian Tucker.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, Rex, you're next.
Well, first of all, Tony, thank you. Tony is such an incredible asset to us as an institute. He's on our advisory committee, and he's always pushing us forward in so new and interesting ways. So we're very happy.
Well, wonderful things come forth in this format, and I deeply appreciate Paul and Laura and everybody who comes on this. Monica and Brian, thank you.
And we'll probably need to keep the questions and answers short here, so we don't go so far over time.
We do have Rex, and he's right here. I think he's across the pond, right? There he is.
Yeah, hopefully you can hear me. One of the major moments in my life was when Francisco Varela posed a question. And the question, what is the first precondition for a thought to arise? And of the 400 people there, nobody had a reason. Nobody could respond. And his response was, it's purely a sense of separation. Because if there's no separation, you are all that is. And that absolutely blew my mind. And it takes me back to the times that I spent with Indigenous people. And their world isn't complex because they don't make it complex. And to teach you, they don't tell you anything, but you just walk with them, you be with them, and somehow it actually percolates through. And after weeks or months with them, you come away with a completely different sense of things. There's no complexity. Everything becomes incredibly simple. And this really is, this has always affected me, because the more I hear people go into complex language, the further I think they're getting away from this true sense of reality. But it's very good. It becomes very, in fact, it becomes very selfish because it's about them trying to establish whatever. Today, for the first time ever, I was invited to attend a, I keep forgetting this word, it really annoys me. So there's no language, but it was a global telepathic global meditation.
I see.
And I've never ever considered, well, I mean, I'm aware of telepathy, but what blew me away was that they presented a structure and said, whatever, as long as you do it at this time in your part of the world,
Right.
because the universe, there's no sense of time, it will be the right time. And I just went into this meditation and it absolutely blew me away because suddenly things began to come up in me, which happened years ago, which was when I experienced this sense of unity with everything that is. And that really caught me out. So I just wonder if, you know, in a way, science is posing its own question and answering it, but the more it makes it more complex, the further away it gets from the truth, which is that reality is what, in a sense, we sense when we stop thinking about it and begin to feel it.
Your comments, Brian and Monica. Thank you, Rex.
Yeah.
Monica.
Brian, you respond to this one.
Okay, sure. You know, it's an amazing thing that the universe has complexified, and when there's a difference between complexity and complicated. So in complicated, there's a good deal of noise and incoherence. But with complexity, suddenly everything becomes, you know, simple and smooth, and we have a feeling of things falling into place, and we have that lovely feeling of abiding in, you know, a vast beauty. And I think that is, it's one of these mysterious processes that a deepening complexity leads simultaneously to a deepening simplicity.
Yeah.
I also appreciate that you point out that, hey, there's 8 billion of us on the planet or more, and maybe that's the critical mass needed to create a noosphere that will help this next evolutionary leap, or that we're so far along in human history that the cumulative memory of all of us living has also created a critical mass, that it's purposeful. Where we are is not a mistake, but a necessary step in our evolution. I really feel a lot of comfort in that. We are not a mistake, how far off path we've gone. It's just that there's, like with cymatics, there's going to be a period of chaos as we go from one frequency to the next. Right. It's just the necessary way that the dynamics work. So I think we can take hope in that, and that we can embrace our complexity and just see and help to shape where it's going to go. So I thank you for that. We just can't live in the past, but we can bring the best of the past forward.
Yes.
The needed tools from the past forward. Thank you, Rex.
And Rex, I just wanted to mention, you know, before the days of doing Zoom, we used to do synchronized posture work. We would have people all choose the same time slot. There's a power to that. That should be be researched further, like you talked about your meditation. What's
interesting. Fascinating is tapping into that global set of consciousness that we can be scattered across the globe.
Right.
We can do a posture or so many different modalities and all have an experience that speaks in a coherent fashion, that a coherency shows up.
I'm going to go to Georgie next.
And I am not muted.
There you are.
You can hear me, right?
Yes, we can.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you, Brian and Monica, for such a hopeful presentation. And there's so many points to talk about, but one of the questions that I have, thinking of my daughters and thinking of my friends, and how would I get this message across to them And my question to you is there a pace to your message? Like, for instance, is the world ready for it? And is the world ready for it? And I think about when you talk about and I wrote down conscious birthing at a time when they're trying to take abortion away from us. We really should be conscious of our reproductive rights, right? And so is the world ready for your message? How can you get it out there? And it also leads me to think about the Beatles or about music, or have you ever considered working with hip hop artists or DJs?
Oh, I like that. They need some new lyrics for sure. I'd say the journey of the Noosphere online is what they're here to say, hey, it's there, free for the viewer.
I just want to shout it to the top of the roof about what you just said. You just gave me so much hope. And personally, I'm at a time where I'm very concerned about a lot of my friends. They seem so anxious. They seem so like they have no hope, and they think that the world is. And yeah, well, it is. But let's not curl up in a ball in a corner. And I would love to get your message out there, but I'm just trying to think of how you would do it on a massive scale. And the only thing I can think of is the Beatles. Because I grew up with the Beatles. I listened to them. My philosophy is based off of some of their teachings. And you guys are great. You should get with some musician, and I'm talking big scale.
Well, they have a book coming out. I'm at work on several books, and a lot of this is getting wrapped in books that I'm writing. So
I have about 1 million books
video
I gotta
series.
read. You want to see the stack of books I have? But
yeah, I do. Yeah.
But music, and this goes back to what Rex was saying, and the simplicity of how we got to get back to the simple things in life. And what is more beautiful than a song that conveys your message?
Or some of the video games, right? Couldn't there be video games for some of these principles? What
totally
about
against
films?
video games, but
what about
music,
films? What about the stories
films,
that we tell each other across the board in all the various venues of our culture? And the lyrics of songs, indeed. It needs to be out there in many.
The question is the world ready for it? That's the question.
Well, let's let them answer. Thank you. Yeah,
that's a great question.
Monica.
Anytime I take the lead here on a question, or I give the first answer, what comes to mind is just how many years, and it's in my my short lifetime here that I've been engaged with the thinking of Brian. And the first time that I have encountered his work, I didn't really even get it. I thought, because Brian was my calculus teacher when I was 18 years old. So if you read his book Cosmogenesis, you'll even see my name in there. I'm one of the students who's talking to him, and but I didn't really get it. And we are so, I said that we are just so enmeshed in this, entrenched in these ideas and a metaphysics of being in a structure for experiencing the universe that in our lives that we cannot see what we're about. But there's
but you have the language. You developed the language.
It took so long. And it just took so long. And I've read everything that Brian has written, and I've watched every single canticle. And it's not just Brian, there's Teilhard and hundreds of
Thomas Berry
and I've gone, and I focused on that, and other people focus on other things. Other people are amplifying other things.
Right.
But you two are making it accessible, and you're making it mainstream, putting it mainstream language. You're giving it window dressing. You're making it exciting and sexy. You're making it in various formats. So I think you're doing your job, and more of us need to pick up on this and also see how it relates to our work. And
thank you, Georgie.
Young people aren't always ready, and it just
they're ready for hope.
We discovered that the universe is expanding in 1960, or we confirmed it in 1964. With the the microscope that Brian was talking about. I mean, that's like 1964. It's like I was already born. I mean,
Okay.
it's just like yesterday.
The Journey of the Universe film, your books, Brian, and the forthcoming book, Monica, and then this new video series, the story of the Noosphere.
Right.
So we can all watch that. We can all read that. That's your first delivery system, the many lectures, the talks that you're giving. You have multiple interviews. And I would also say, thank you for your endorsement, but try our ecstatic trance, open sessions. Come and see the universe speak to you through this very same message.
Monica
embodied
has,
as well. So many ways of imbibing this.
Yeah.
So
Well,
Thank
great.
you.
I'm going to move on to the next question. Let's go.
Yep.
Lynn, hi. Can you say hi here or get you in the conversation?
Hi, thanks
Hi.
for taking me on. I mean, it's been a long meeting and I really appreciated your presentation. I'm
Thanks.
friends with Tyler Volk, and Tyler
Oh.
Volk said I should be presenting at the Noosphere conference in November.
Yes,
But
you
I'm
should
on
be.
Maui and I have to be here.
Yeah,
We've had some pretty serious problems here and,
Sure have.
and
yeah,
my work
yeah.
applies now, which is really exciting.
yeah.
But I wanted
what
to
is your
say,
work? What is your work? Briefly.
I've been for the last few years, I've been writing a book on a primer for system science that that describes what we call system processes, the basic patterns like networks, feedback, of complexity science, of system science, those
Cool.
patterns. They're not called anything particular out there. They're called aspects or concepts or, different things. In fact, different names on different pages. But system processes theory calls them system processes. And if you understand these patterns, then you understand how the universe works generally.
Yeah, beautiful.
And
And
Tyler gave
so-
us a beautiful talk on these dynamics as well. And he
Yeah,
recommended you.
it's coming.
as a speaker.
I'm working with my editor now, and I
Very
have
good.
the last month, and the designer starts next week. And
Excellent.
I am self-publishing. I had other interests, but
Yeah.
no, it's too slow. I can't
Yeah.
go there because it's
Yeah.
too slow. It has to get out. But as you were talking, of course, I was thinking in those terms.
Thank you.
Well, wait. In the
I really-
systems, in the terms of system science, is that what
Yeah.
you mean? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So all it is yours is more personified, more
yeah,
human based. You know what I mean? I know that you intend it to be universal, and it is universal. I'm not saying that it isn't. It's universal, but the language is human, which is fine. It's great.
yeah.
We
We need all these different approaches.
Yes.
Exactly. And I think it's interesting. Your work and what you said right away about heredity was really interesting. I'm in conversations. I'll be talking with them on Tuesday with Tyler Volk and George Mobus, and we've been talking about ontogenesis over the last 7 years, I think, off and on.
Yeah.
But when you were talking about it, I kept thinking about information theory and about, first of all, information theory is not just Claude Shannon's paper. That's
Thank
not
God.
what it is anymore. It's
Yeah.
gone crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But what you guys are writing about, what you said, I can't wait for your book to come out, because what I'll do is write up some correlations.
Oh, that'd be great.
cool.
Wonderful.
Oh, it'd be so great, Lynn.
Well, it's great to meet you, Lynn, and let's have you back. Maybe we'll have a conversation once you're published, and I'd love to
Yeah,
hear.
once I get this book going, I'll
Yeah.
get a hold of you.
What's
Oh,
the
good.
title, Lynn? What's the title?
It's called Seeing, a field guide to the patterns and processes of nature, consciousness, and culture.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah.
Wow.
You're invited.
Yeah.
Come back
Yeah.
here when you're ready.
That'd be
Beautiful.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So
Thank
glad
you.
Tyler.
But I'm
Congratulations.
really excited about, I took pretty good notes
Great.
going. And sorry, I'm not going to see you in Berkeley. I'm sure you're going to be there, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
Monica and I will be there. Yeah.
yeah, of course.
Wonderful.
I was
but in the
gonna go,
future.
but
I got to move on. So
Anyway.
thank
We're
you.
running out of time. Thank you, Lynn.
Thanks, Lynn.
Wonderful to meet you. And of course, holding that aloha spirit with all the things that have gone on in Maui. It's great
That's-
that you're there and holding
Yeah.
space. Yeah. I wanted to get Brian Tucker in as our last
Yeah.
comment. Brian Tucker has been such a supportive element to our work as well. Hi, Brian.
Hi,
Brian.
everyone.
Yola Olson gave a whole course.
Brian and Monica and Paul and Laura, this has just been such a beautiful and deeply resonant conversation with you all today. And I really honor what the Kuiamunga Institute is able to become by having this kind of forum. It's just a wonderful, I felt deeply touched and brought to tears at some point. And Brian, if you ever offer a calculus course again, I would love to retake it because I need that cosmological perspective. It was never given to me in college, but it would be a wonderful thing. I was reflecting a little bit about what Gio had offered about the world needing sort of another Beatle mania kind of wave. But it could be that there's a shift, that maybe we are the ones that we've been waiting for, and that we are becoming the change makers in the world. So I see the message that you're both developing about the noosphere as being fundamentally empowering. And
Great.
this idea that we each have a calling and a purpose in a universe that itself is all about that. You've shared so much about the new human. I thought it might be good just to hear one more time what you see as the characteristics of that new human in this realm of allurement and of a universe knowing itself and becoming alive in consciousness.
Great question.
Well, Brian, you go first. No, I'm serious.
No, well, I mean, I think part of it is that we all come to realize the sense of play as being a valid mode and to gift ourselves with that sense of play. And like Paul and Laura did last week, we recognize what we know to be the call to adventure, that the very thing that we most are excited and thrilled to discover becomes that which we chase and seek. Not only the material forms, but the thing that's true in our heart, right? And that somehow that we recognize we have a role, like you say, in evolving the noosphere, coming to see that. But I love the beauty of how you were framing it. So I'd love to hear you and Monica add to that list.
Well, let me just say this, Brian. What you just said, I couldn't go beyond that. That's fantastic. I love that.
Yeah.
The play and chasing the adventure, beautiful. Monica.
Cosmogenesis, which is basically what we're describing, it's something, okay, as opposed to a fixed cosmos.
Right.
It's something that is happening implicitly in relations. And so, our theoretic mind is always looking at the world, and including other people and everything that's in the world. And we're seeing, our science focuses on displacement, very little focus on the development in the movement. But I can't really see the development in the movement that's going on over there. I can only feel the development and movement that's going on in me. That's what I really know. And so along with cosmogenesis comes an awareness with the reflective mind of the deepening process that I myself am engaged in the place that this really needs to happen is in our personal relationships. So in some sense, maybe we wish we were in different personal relationships. Maybe we wish we were in a different world and not the Anthropocene. We wish, we want to go out and change the world and become activists, and we want to tell everybody else how to act, but we can't do that. It doesn't work. It just creates opposition. So what I have come to really feel throughout this whole developmental process of my own self is the need to focus on my own, the way I interact with everyone all the time. And I'm not, it's very hard to do. We're not used to it. I've got a theoretic mind. And so there's always these issues and problems. And then I just need to recognize it quickly. Where are my beliefs on my sleeve so I can roll up my sleeves, throw it away, and get to work? Trying to improve my relationships. I'm always doing things wrong with my daughters, with my son, with, you know, my employees, with the people in my life. I'm always doing things wrong. I shouldn't get locked into not accepting that and admitting it and moving forth. And I also recognize everybody else holding on to their beliefs. So, you know, I wish I were in a really powerful position in the world and I could zap the world and make it all be the way I want it to be, but I can't. I can only do my own world. And then maybe as I develop and articulate, maybe someone will want to listen to me more. So I need to develop myself.
Yeah.
And I wish I was younger, you know, and I wish it was not an Anthropocene. And I wish so many things, but this is what I am, you know?
Yeah.
So that's what I think.
Beautiful.
I think that's
Thank you.
The
great.
job to bridge where we are with where we want to go.
Yeah,
The most important thing is to have a vision
yeah.
of where we want to go and a collective vision.
And it's a call to each individual to find their way of participating in their own language and their own qualities and abilities to share. So
I also appreciate that a vision is anchored in the universe herself, in her principles, in her dynamics, in the same evolutionary forces and guidance that has brought us here to this moment.
yeah,
So I feel that we have
it's part of the
something
journey.
that is creating a vision that
Mhm.
is strong and true, has a long track record, and that it's a very exciting next chapter. I trust the universe. I trust that we'll get where we're going. She hasn't filled us yet, although there's a few species that have went by the wayside, right? But that it'll arrive, right?
Right.
Either we'll be on board or the next species will, but she'll get there.
Yeah.
They'll ride the waves of the universe. I also want to ask you, and Brian, stay on for a minute. You know, Isaac Newton began his quest that became physics by saying, how can I look at God's handiwork and get to know our creator better through our physical universe? And though later on, science and religion had to separate, and I see all the reasons why, science evolved, right? Science has new chapters unfolding. Religion, a little bit stuck in the mud, but it's being forced along to adapt. And so is spirituality. We have so many different means of spirituality evolving. And I appreciate, you know, what's emerging. What does the universe herself want next in this chapter? Where do you see science being married back to this evolutionary force, this sense of the sacred? How do you see it for our culture? And how are we going to integrate this? What's needed for us to continue on? Can you speak to that, please?
Brian, she said stay on because she wanted to hear from you.
I first, I think we want to hear from both of you, and then I can add. might be able
Exactly.
to add to that. So please.
Yeah. And it makes such nice symmetry on the screen,
Yeah.
adding a fourth. So.
It's the Brady Bunch.
Well,
Is it part of our new languaging, how we're going to understand where we are, who we are?
in a kind of I'd like to give a response, but it's overly simplistic. I know things are complicated, but it at least gets across my intuition, and that is to talk about the left and right hemispheres.
Right. Correct.
And so that we have this intuitive and holistic mentality, and then we have this logical and analytical mentality. This holistic and intuitive mentality was profoundly explored and developed by humans over 100,000 years, and it came up with amazing things, for sure, all kinds of things we could talk about. The logical and scientific analytical mind has only gotten going recently. It's come on board much later. This is one of Monica's points. This whole idea of an axial intelligence. It's very recent. I mean, 2,500 years compared to 100,000. So what we got to the truth first with our intuitive minds.
Yeah.
And now the theoretical is catching up. So we're arriving at amazing insights. I mean, it just blows our minds when we try to take them in. They're amazing. And yet, even the most amazing scientific discoveries are often in resonance with the intuition of indigenous peoples.
There you go. Yeah.
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 I think that this marriage is really going to change things. It already is.
And developing a new language to encompass it.
Yeah.
Very crucial is a new language, new art. And for Georgie, a new music, you know?
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
Nice.
Well,
Yeah.
music
Go ahead.
always been part of it.
Brian, you
I
might-
might just add a new ritual as well.
Yeah,
New
new
rituals that
Absolutely.
are earth affirming, that draw from the scripture of the universe.
Absolutely.
Draw
Right.
from the scripture
As
of the universe.
Thomas
Oh my
Berry
God.
might say, right?
Ah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah.
Beautiful.
Nicely said.
Thank
Well,
you.
thank you, Brian. Both Brians, but thank you, Brian Tucker, for always coming up with such insightful questions and comments. And we look forward to continuing our conversations on
I just
global
credit-
collective consciousness.
I want to credit Brian with Viola Olson
Yeah,
having a forum for people to watch your video series, The Story of the Noosphere,
right,
select chapters and then discuss them
right.
to help people wrap their brains and emotions around it.
Sure.
I think there's almost like therapy groups. Like, here's the
Yeah.
presentations. Let's help each other grok it, embody it.
Monica, you have the last word.
I'm trying to get away from having the last word nowadays in my life. You know.
Well,
We
you
women
know,
are so good at that.
I will
Yeah.
say that the conversation continues. We've been talking to Monica for 30 years or more. We don't keep track any longer. It's past 30 years. Stop counting. So this will continue. We're not even near the core of what
Great.
we want to reveal together in friendship. So
Use
Great.
the powers of focus group as a forum to develop these ideas and interact with our audience to help us through this process.
mhm,
Yeah,
yeah,
Yes.
we're
Yes.
appreciative of
Absolutely.
you.
I
Absolutely.
appreciate you very, very much, and my whole long friendship with you and everything. It's almost as long as my friendship with Brian.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
And congratulations, Monica, to all that
Yeah.
you've done and accomplished, and you too, Brian. And
It's been a
we
big
look forward to your new book. And we have to
Sure.
recommend again the Noosphere, Story of the Noosphere,
right.
free online. And with the
Somebody
Spirit
post it in the
Foundation.
chat room. Post the
Google
link.
it.
Somebody go ahead. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
true.
But chapter by chapter, why did you choose short video segments? Just because there's so much to unpack in each point?
Because we heard that the young people, the ones that were trying to get at,
Yeah.
you know, by being the Beatles or something, we heard that they can only like focus for 2 minutes, and we thought 5 minutes was a stretch. And every one of them that we wrote, I would be, no, you can't cut that. You can't cut that. And Brian was like, no, we have to make it, 4 minutes. I'm like, no way, and it is.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so
Yeah.
Well,
smart.
and it's beautifully illustrated, narrated, and filmed. And it's really, I appreciate that you take an idea and then it really needs spelling out so that you fully get it.
Mm,
Because with new language and with new concepts, it just takes hearing it a few times over and over from new angles. And then it
Yeah.
becomes embedded. And then we can
Yeah.
start letting it percolate through our whole worldview.
yeah.
So yeah, brilliantly done.
So we need to do
So-
we need to do a 5 minute segments on the work of the Institute.
Yeah, we're working
Yeah,
all this.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
what.
good. Good.
Yeah, yeah.
Nice.
I've
And
heard that
books,
you
we have
have
a
to make
bunch
it-
of books coming out. Yeah.
I heard now it's 20 seconds.
Yeah. Okay. Hi, my name is Paul. Click.
Indeed.
All right.
So this is the story of click.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Well,
Yeah.
Brian,
Thank you. Let's co-create
Yeah.
this next chapter. Let's
Yeah.
take hold of
Good.
it. Let's be these conscious co-creators. Let's create the
Yes.
paradise on
Yes.
earth that we all want to see.
Yeah.
It's up to
Exactly.
us. Why did we come here on earth today? It was to be empowered with these tools, with this worldview, with
Yeah.
one another, with this community,
yeah,
and start to make our voices heard and to be the instruments that the universe wishes us to be, that she's working through us to be,
yeah.
right? We've got jobs, people. Let's do it.
Keep
Yeah.
chipping away. Brian, it's such a pleasure to know you closer and have more access to have these kinds of conversations. You've been very humble and generous with your time and your research. And we're fortunate that we get to have another couple hours with you today. So
Thanks, Paul. Thank
let's
you.
continue. Let's continue talking.
Yes.
See where we can
Yes.
go with this.
Ongoing,
go.
We love
ongoing.
to be part of the team in whatever capacity it fits. So all right.
We're all part of the team here, all
Yeah.
of us.
Indeed.
Yeah.
All right, everybody.
Thank you all, part of the team in our listening audience. Yeah.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Thanks.
Stay healthy.
Thank you,
Take care
guys.
of
Everyone.
yourselves.
I appreciate
Blessings.
it.
Yeah, keep looking to the stars. All right.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
everyone.